Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan. Here we are discussing about the 175th number formula part. And in 175th formula part, we are discussing that how the subscription plan is taken by the Indian government and how they have taken the subscription plan till now. And till now, basically, we have discussed up to the level that is basically the each and every subscription, each and every formula attributes are basically connected with the chartered accountants industry. Basically, reason each and every attributes are basically directly connected with the balance sheet, and balance sheet only basically can be connected to the chartered accountant too. Reason is basically the degree, the up to level the data access basically they have. And for example, there is one formula that is basically attributes, that is actual cost, that is basically AC. So AC basically contains AC contains one balance sheet, and one balance sheet is basically sorry, it contains hundreds of balance sheet, and in this basically one balance sheet is connected with the one country. So one balance sheet is connected with one country, then you can just imagine the depth level of the each and every balance sheet and each and every attributes of the formula. If attribute is connected with the hundreds of balance sheet, then you can just imagine the formula calculation how it's going to be. If it's plus, then basically 100 plus 100 balance sheet. If it's divided, then 100 divided by 100 balance sheets. If it's minus, then 100 balance sheet minus 100 balance sheet. So it's very difficult to calculate all. So that's why basically the project management plan institute, that is basically PMI, which are basically currently is in sorry, not Mumbai, it's in Pune, and they are basically handling this each and every balance sheet. But major balance sheet basically are handled by the USA, because they have the headquarters in the uh, they have the headquarters in the USA, and they are basically handling each and every balance sheets. And this balance sheet are basically, you can say, might be getting prepared in the set of softwares. And in India, basically it's a Tally, but in USA it might be some different software. Which are basically specially created for the software industry tracking each and every information. So here basically we are discussing about the balance sheets, and balance sheet are basically which is getting balance sheet means debit and credit, that is basically by default everybody knows. But here basically we are discussing about the software industry's software balance sheets. Software industry balance sheet means the software project manager, software delivery head, software director, software CEOs, who basically are into the costing part, are into the budgeting part, are into the project management part. They basically do each and every calculations, and they have basically basically they can't calculate by own, right? They can't calculate each and any of the things basically by own. They have basically set of systems, that is basically set of formulas. On the base of that formula only basically they can do the calculation, right? That is basically by default. Otherwise basically the system will say that this is not wrong, sorry, this is not correct, because it's by default. Basically then audit department basically will say that how you got this formula, and on the base of what basically you got this formula. Then basically that person will say I actually created this formula. Then basically it will, sorry, you can't create any of the formula. If you are creating any formula, then basically you have to approve this from the PMI institute, and then only basically you can apply the formula to the project management plan. So it's like that basically. So whatever basic, for example, chartered accountant group basically, they can't create their own formulas, right? Debit credit, they can't add debit credit automatically. They can't create their own system, because each and everything basically rules and regulation is written in the books, in the chartered accountancy books. On the base of that only basically you can create the plus minus, that is basically debit credit. You can't create the rules, right? If you want to create the rules, up to you have basically reached up to that level that you can create the rules and regulation of the chartered accountant CA industry. Then basically you have to approve with the CA groups basically. That is basically the chartered accountancy groups are there. So you have to take approval from that groups basically. Then only basically you can do this. But it's very very difficult tough, because to reach up to that level basically, because The people who are already sitting in the chair basically, they will never basically going to allow you to sit in their place basically, because it's very very difficult to get the one chair also, that also big level chairs basically. That is basically the chartered accountancy group's chair basically, you can say. So it's very difficult. So but here basically I have told that if anybody wants to change the rules and regulation of the chartered accountancy, if they want to create any formulas in the project management plan, sorry, in the project management groups basically want to create any formulas, for example project managers, project delivery heads, if they feel that basically yeah, this formula is correct and it's going to impact to the entire software industry, then basically you can give the suggestion to the PMI institute. They are, that is basically in the Pune basically institute. You can either courier them the your formula, or you can directly mail them, because each and every mail basically which you are sending, that each and every mails are basically getting read. Not a single mail is getting ignored by the PMI institute, because you can't ignore the mail, because it might possible that if you are ignoring the mail, that mail might get create problem in your future. So it might possible that anybody person who have got some new ideas, and he basically has written that mail, and that was basically something at good idea and good formula which might impact to the project management plan institute. That so basically, PMI group basically never ignores the mail. If by chance Pune ignores the mail, but Pune will never ignores the mail, because there are lots of people who are checking each and every mails. So it's very difficult that Pune will ignore the mail. By chance, if they ignores the mail, for example, some holiday came into picture. That time basically the workload has happened too much. That time basically it might possible that they might ignore the mail. That time basically the USA basically is there, they will basically check, but they will ask basically why you have ignored the mail. But you can't say that basically few days, basically 2 to 3 days was holiday, and due to that holiday basically we checked the mail very fast. So it, that basically answer basically you can't give it. So basically we are here, we are not discussing that. Basically here we are discussing that each and every formulas basically that are basically practically used and practically tested and practically approved by the PMI institute, then only basically the formulas came into the picture, and then they have implemented in the project management plan institute, that is basically in Pune currently. And the headquarter is in Mumbai, USA currently. So basically you can just imagine the project management plan structure, each and every stuff basically you can say. And this is basically just a simple example of the balance sheet basically. So one attribute equals to hundreds of balance sheet. So you can just imagine if one attributes is containing hundreds of balance sheet, then what basically that might be containing. One attribute single. For example, AC. AC is one attribute of the PMI formulas. In AC, basically there are hundreds of balance sheet which is getting used. And project management plan institute, that is basically Pune and the USA, they basically they have 100% this balance sheet. That's why basically the project each and on the basically this is the base of the software industry, you can say. The each and every developers, each and every quality department, each and every team leaders, each and every project managers, each and every directors, each and every senior managers, each and every quality level people, each and every software senior directors, and the vice presidents and CEO and the company owners, which they are getting the money, and the level of money they are getting. The base is this calculation only. That is basically the hundreds of balance sheets. On the base of hundreds of balance sheet only, the project management plan groups basically that are sorry, the software industry basically they are getting the money. So this is the base basically of the income basically, you can say. So if the base is powerful, then basically the income is also going to be very powerful basically. But that should be verified, that have to verify 100 times, because it might possible that the other industry might take action against this management plan formulas, or balance sheets. It might possible, it might possible that, but this type of thing basically never came into picture. But this might get possible in future, that the other groups basically came into the software industry and they done the audit trial of the balance sheet. That is basically the hundreds of balance sheet which basically currently has created by the software industry, not by the other groups. It's created by the software industry. So they have basically might do the verification of these hundreds of balance sheet. How basically they have calculated, they we want to see basically how the tough calculation has created by the software groups basically. That is basically from just from one attribute, that is basically AC. From that just AC basically how they calculated the hundreds of balance sheet basically. So just to see that basically the software in sorry the other industry basically might reach to software industry and might ask that balance sheet basically, where is that balance sheet. So for that basically the answer is supposed to be ready with the project management planning sheet. That is basically by default they have created these hundreds of balance sheet. Then basically each and every answers are always with them. So that is basically USA basically. Because in if anybody says that what is the software industry, then basically the answer is only one. That is USA. USA know everything. If anybody says that this is not basically, I think this should be added in this software should add something in the future. Then basically it's a USA. USA will add it. So everywhere basically it's a USA, USA, USA. So this balance sheet also is like that. Hundreds of balance sheet are also already created by the each and every just single attributes. So each and every single attributes is connected with hundreds of balance sheet. So you can just imagine the structure level of the income basically. Also you can say structure level of income means each and every balance sheet basically whatever things here basically balance sheet only takes those things into the picture which are connected with the software and the computer. Nothing else basically you can't add it here basically. By default, if any water supply company basically is at so using the software, then basically the water supply industry also comes into the picture. If the cold drinks basically companies are doing the software creation using, then basically that entire industry comes into the picture. So reason is basically for example one cold drink company basically used this balance so this software, then basically in future it might possible that this software become very big, and in future basically they converted this software into the human needs. So and that time basically the in balance sheet these things was not used. This software basically was not calculating in this some balance sheets, and balance sheet contains the entire software, entire cold drink industry basically you can say. So the cold drink industry also comes into the picture in the balance sheet basically. So wherever the softwares are getting used, there the balance sheet are by default getting used. So it's like that basically. So till now basically we have discussed lots of things, lots of things in the formula part only. So here basically we are discussing about the earthquake basically, which are basically by default basically the energies of the cities basically that is handled by the power companies and the energy companies, and that energy company and power company are by default getting controlled by the satellites groups. That is by default basically upper level only basically handles you, right? Your company owners handle you, and company owners are basically handled by the clients, and client are basically handled by the by default publics. So public basically handles the each and every stuff, that also you can say. But it's if the public union is there. But if public union is not there, then basically you can't say that the groups will handle the things basically. So here we are not discussing that who is handling who is handling that. So here basically we are discussing that the software industry, which is telling that we have created hundreds of balance sheet, we have created hundreds of things, hundreds of stuff, and this all basically comes into the what? That all comes into the earthquake level plans basically you can say. Earthquake plans basically you can say. So one of the plan basically we have already discussed. If I say that earthquake plan basically has created, then basically it's 100% correct. Here basically first example we have already saw seen that hundreds of families are there that are basically god families, and in that basically there are around 50 to 60,000 70,000 people who are basically into the energy to handle the buildings and buildings structure basically. Not structure basically, the buildings is not supposed to move left and right, so buildings should be stable. So for getting stable, basically set of energies are used, and due to that set of energies the buildings are getting stable. Otherwise basically the building will fall immediately, basically, if the balance sheet support, sorry, the energy support is not there. So these energy supports are basically created by the energy companies and the power companies, who takes on energy of the each and every person, basically. And few energies are basically special energy. So that basically we have already discussed, that are basically the God family, um, God family members, and they basically takes the sorry, the energy companies and power companies takes the energy data. And this is basically first layer, you can say. And the second layer, basically, you can say that is the natural items. For example, mountain is there, trees are there. So here basically we can say that who is the most powerful natural item. So mountain, is it powerful? No, basically you can't say that mountain is powerful, because mountain is set of sands and set of lavas. So basically if rain falls, then basically that gets into sand, basically. So mountain, you can't say that it's a powerful. Trees also you can't say that, because if one wind comes, the cyclone comes, then tree gets falls, basically. Sand also you can say that it's a little bit powerful, but you can't fully say that it's a powerful. If I say water, then water also you can say that it's a powerful, because water can do anything. So water also can used as a powerful natural items. And then basically in the nature you can say the tectonic plates like is not there, but tectonic plates energies basically are created in the surface of the earth, right? So that also you can say that it's one of the powerful natural item. So then basically what comes into the nature, then basically the nature comes that the lights, basically, which comes from the sun and moon, that basically you can see that it's this is also powerful. But you can't say they're fully powerful, because if sun does not raise, then basically there is no power of that light, right? Power does not. So power means it should be perfectly stable in 24 hours. It should not go down. So that is basically the powerful natural object, basically. So mostly you can say that light is also not so much powerful. Then basically what comes into the picture? Then basically comes that. The human energies, yeah, the human energies also basically it's a natural basically items. That also comes into the, but that comes in that all we have already discussed. So that basically we can't say that it's a natural, because it's a totally different entity we have already we have taken this. So here basically the other things basically comes into the picture is um, mostly these are the natural items. And this natural item basically also helps in the stopping the earthquakes. Earthquake means earthquake equal to what? Earthquake equal to if the entire energies are stable in near the building. That means no earthquake, right? If it's unstable, that means the matrix has wrongly created in near the buildings. Then that means the buildings has created wrong matrix, wrong matrix, basically you can say. So the wrong, if it's a wrong matrix, then 100% the building is going to shake. But the earthquake system is already created in front of the public, so you can't shake a single building, right? So if you are shaking the building, then basically the public will might know that, yeah, basically there is no like earthquake system, there is no like tectonic. So to create the system basically in front of the public, you have to shake each and every city, each and every area's building, basically. That is basically in the entire city. So that basically will convert into the earthquake. So basically you can say to create the system, basically you have to shake the entire city. Why? Because you can't shake the single building, right? If you are going to shake the single building, if you are the your matrix is getting wrong in the single building, then basically the public might know that, yeah, basically there is no like earthquake system. It's just energy set of energy groups which are basically standing near, sorry, near the, which are basically situated, which are placed near the buildings, and on that base of the energies, The buildings are not shaking and shaking. That is basically the by default. The system basically which is created by the World Bank and the subscription created groups, that also you can say, and which is supported by the government. So government basically 100% might be doing each and everything. That the subscription plan are sent by the World Bank, and in the subscription plan, 20% people are going to get disease. So that is basically the money basically the government has paid to the World Bank. So according to that, basically he is suffering from the pains, suffering from the disease, because government has not paid the money to the other side basically. That's why basically the subscription plan groups says that yeah, basically the government has paid up to this money only. So this is basically, you can say, the government's ego comes into the picture. Yeah, basically this area is supposed to get some disease because this area has given us a lot of trouble. But that basically never does. Government don't do this type of activities because one day they are only going to suffer if they, because if the environment is getting wrong in one area, then basically it might possible that it spread to another area, then basically entire city, then entire states, and then basically it might convert to entire city, and sorry, entire country. So basically government never takes this type of risk. So they never take this type of risk of the area, sorry, the spoiling the areas, because World Bank is directly connected with the areas. So if by chance they says that the government says that this area is supposed to no, the government says that this area is supposed to not to be have a good data, then basically the by default you can say that governments are responsible, right? Governments are by default responsible for the not having the good environment. But World Bank never supports. If they supports, then basically they takes the each and every proof that you have told us. That's why basically we have done this, because one day it might possible that one area basically spoiled, then it converts to the state, then it converts to the country, and then it converts to the countries. It might possible. Then the when they decode the things basically, then the World Bank will say, yeah, from this area the problem has started. So by default they are going to, by default they are only going to be blamed, right? The World Bank is only by default going to be into blame. Why? Because the area responsibility, the country level basically problem was there. So the country level problem has spreaded to the countries level. So it basically was not supposed to be happen. So the World Bank will be responsible. So basically, the each and everywhere, basically each and every country, the user password system has created. That is basically the, you can say, the energy level password and user ID system has created by between the each and every countries. Basically, you can say. For example, this energy is entering to the city. This energy is entering to the countries. Then basically they check, they allow the energy, but it can't merge to the country's energy because it's a user password a system basically which is created. So just see, basically the subscription plan groups basically are doing up to the level creation, and as the time is getting, they are increasing the more security, more powerful way of the subscription to the countries to countries and states to states and the cities to cities basically, you can say. So like this you can just say the powerful part of the countries and states and cities basically, you can say. So like this basically the subscription plan is connected to the first was basically the human nature basically, right? The earthquake is earthquake first layer near the building is human blood cells energies. So here basically in human basically we are taken as a god family humans energies. And in second basically we have discussed the natural items. So in natural items we have already discussed which are the natural items. So the second layer basically we can take as a natural items in the earthquake, sorry, the near the building supporting basically, where the each and every energies are getting supported to the building. That's why basically the buildings are stable. Reason is the energies are near the buildings, and due to this energy the building is not shaking left, not shaking right, not going to top side and not going to bottom side also. So you can just imagine the buildings are standing at the straight position, in stable position. That means how many types of you can say the the security has been created for just for one building basically. So it's a one building basically. But in real basically how many buildings are there in the cities? You can just imagine, right? There are more than hundreds of buildings, that also basically 35 floors building. So you can just imagine the powerful of the energies which are getting used near to the buildings. Due to that, the buildings are not shaking. If it shakes, that means some matrix has gone wrong, and due to that matrix gone wrong, the buildings is shaking. One building can't shake. Why? Because the system is created of the earthquake. The public will know that how this one single building is shaking. How it's possible? Reason is the system is already created. That is basically the earthquake system. That's why the tectonic plate system has created, so that in future basically if uh, anybody asks related to the earthquake, then basically he will be just stepped through the earthquake system. For that basically the tectonic plates are created. There lots of books are also created for the tectonic plates only. Just for one tectonic plates basically there are thousands of books. So basically he will be just confused, because for one tectonic plates only thousands of books are there. So when he will be going to complete the thousands of books, when he will be going to complete the thousands of books. So like this, basically thousands of tectonic plates are there. So you can just imagine more than 1 crore books will be there for just for earthquakes. So when he will be reading the books, when he will be beheading the books, when he will be understanding the tectonic plates, so when he will be doing each and every stuff that why this earthquake is coming. So basically just the confusion will happen. But the people who actually know the really the earthquakes, their books are totally different. That are basically I have just told just now. The human energy is the one of the layer. Then the another layer is basically you can say the natural items layer. And then basically like this there are many layers you can say, which is created for just for the earthquake purpose. And not earthquake purpose, earthquake is not supposed to come. So here earthquake basically is not supposed to come, but it might possible that negative energy gets generated, and due to negative energy it might possible the earthquake might come. So earthquake depends upon the negativity energy and the positivity energy. So negativity energies will 100% going to generate the earthquake, and positive energy is basically 100% the earthquake is not going to, because it's already checked by the World Bank groups and the subscription groups basically who are creating into who are into the subscription plan. So they have already checked each and every stuff, and they will never disclose the things, this each and everything in front of the any of the government. Why? Because it's their secrets. No country is going to disclose the secret of their countries. For example, India country, right? India country only can do this type of task. No other country can do. Why? Because it's a secret. So India country will never disclose their secret. For example, USA can only do this task. So it's a secret. Pakistan country only can do this task. UAE country only can do this task. Iran country only can do this task. Like this Oman only can do this task. Like this South Africa country only can do this task. So like this, each and every country's secrets are there, that this country only can do this task. No other country can do that task, because each and every country basically have kept their secrecy, and the secret basically you can say, and on the base of secret only basically the countries are ongoing, and which is currently still ongoing you can say. So here basically what we are discussing, for example, uh, in this basically we will just take one more topic, that is basically the barter system, right? Barter system means what? A barter system basically currently basically how the business is ongoing. The business is ongoing means you are giving the money and taking the services, right? For example, you want a job, then basically there are lots of paid services job also, and without paid services jobs websites are there who basically give the job, right? You are submitting your biodata, you are submitting the resume to the companies, and then basically the you are getting the jobs, right? You are giving the interviews, and then basically you are getting the job. So this is barter system, you can say. Then basically the shop systems are there, where basically you gives the money and you gets the material. Mall systems are there, you are giving the money and taking the material. So like this basically the this is not barter system, right? This is the business monetary system basically, you can say. But the barter system is what? Barter system means one country is doing the favor to the other country. That you can say it's a barter system. But the agreements are there. Agreements are always there, that you have helped us. Because for example, I will take one example. Assume that one country got some natural disaster. India country has sent the foods, each and every packets, each and everything, right? So that is basically generated from the India energy, right? India, India's energy companies, power companies. So that is generated from by default this. So they sends the data. Sorry, they sends the material to the country where the natural disaster has happened. So like this, the barter system is there. They have helped, right? But in this helping, they have kept their energies. They have sent the energy of India country to that country, because whenever they are going to consume the food, that is by default going to take a, yeah, energy of the India. That is basically by default. So the proof is always there. Nature always keeps the proof that you have helped the country due to the natural disaster. But in real, basically, it's a help basically, right? So help has given by the certain countries to certain countries. The help is kept in the proof by the nature. The nature always keep the each and every proof that you have basically given the data to this country. So like this type of things are also there basically. Why we basically discuss this all these things? Because in formula basically in the balance sheet this all basically comes into the picture. Because one of the balance sheet is of the natural nature balance sheet also is also there, which basically balance each and every stuff, each and everything basically. So one of the balance sheet in hundreds of balance sheet, one of the balance sheet is nature balance sheet. So here basically we have discussed the two layers of the earthquake. One is basically the human, the god families and the god families members energy, and then basically we have saw the natural item, that are nature item which we have already discussed their energies. In third basically we are going to discuss little bit some another layer of the earthquakes, and this is basically you can say it's the 175th number part, and in 176 basically we are going to discuss a little bit more about this layers. That is basically third number layer.